I created this video to give you some information on possible spring break trips for next school year, 2019-2020. I'm going to start by highlighting some of the positive things from last year's spring break trip, which was a 4-night cruise to the Bahamas along with a couple of days at Universal Studios. First of all, last year's trip was a great bang for your buck. It included a 7-night trip for $1,100. All of the meals on the cruise ship were included, as well as a lot of great entertainment. There were some nice performance opportunities and clinics with last year's trip as well. The students got to perform and have a clinic on the cruise ship, and they also got to perform at Universal Studios. Students had a lot of fun on the ship as well. From these pictures, you see students on a climbing wall, playing some basketball, and at one of the nightly shows held in the cruise's theater. The experiences from the cruise were also very unique. Students got to spend some time on the beach with some of their best friends. They got to explore NASA and other places with Mr. Munoz, chaperones, and myself, and they got to participate in some really cool excursions. Lastly, all meals are included on the cruise ship, which is very convenient. Now I'll highlight a few negative things about last year's spring break trip. The obvious is that our trip took place at the same time that many other college students had spring break. Our departure port of Port Canaveral is also in kind of a spring break hotspot. Though the presence of college students enjoying their spring break was somewhat annoying, we did not find it to be a safety concern, as Royal Caribbean has a very high level of safety standards on their ship and many security guards. Another negative is the amount of time we spent on a bus. Students spent over 2 days on the bus down to Florida and back. Lastly, we were on one of Royal Caribbean's smallest ships. While this wasn't really an inconvenience, there are some other really nice ships out there, and perhaps we could consider one of those for the future. So for our next trip, we are looking at another cruise. The reasons being is it's the best bang for your buck in comparison to other band trips, including Disney, Nashville, and New York. For example, Disney can cost $1,500 alone if you take a bus, plus there are meals to add to that. New York is about $1,000 for 4 days and 3 nights, and much more if you fly. I also think a cruise offers unique experiences and culture for the students. Last cruise the kids had a blast. I also felt really confident about the safety and supervision on the cruise last year. In looking at a trip for next year, I'm looking at 2 different things. First of all, I'm looking at cruises with a different itinerary in comparison to the one we did last year. I would like an itinerary with some diverse port stops. Number 2, I'm considering a bigger and better ship with some different entertainment options for our students. Throughout the rest of this presentation, I'd like you to consider whether or not a 7-night cruise out of Puerto Rico is a good option for our trip for next year. Or should we consider something else? I currently have very competitive quotes on 2 very nice cruise ships out of San Juan, Puerto Rico. The first one is the Royal Caribbean Freedom of the Seas. My wife and I went on this exact cruise July 2019, and we both felt it would be a very fun and exciting band trip for the MHS band students. Though the ship was very nice, it is actually going in for dry dock before the 2020 spring break trip, in which they are going to likely add some water slides and other entertainment options throughout the ship. The ship currently has a lot of things to do outside, including a very nice pool area, a climbing wall, the simulated surf area, and a very nice athletic court and mini golf course. The promenade in the center of the ship is also very nice, something that our smaller cruise ship last year didn't have. The 3-story dining room was also very nice, much more elaborate and compared to the one on our ship last year. The theater on the Freedom of the Seas is also very big and very nice. The other cruise I'm considering is also a 7-night cruise out of Puerto Rico on Norwegian Epic. This ship currently has a very nice water park and pool area, as you see from the pictures. There are some fun entertainment options for students, including a bowling alley and an arcade, and a nice dining room, as you see from the picture. This specific ship is known to have some very nice show options at night. You see the theater in this picture. I'll briefly highlight 2 of the shows currently going on Norwegian's Epic. First, they have Cirque Dreams, which is like a Cirque du Soleil show. Also, they are currently featuring a Broadway show, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Both ships will have 5 ports of call. Both ships will stop at St. Martin, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, and Barbados. The Norwegian ship visits St. Thomas, while Royal Caribbean will visit Antigua. The band's first port would be Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory with lots of Spanish influence. I'll briefly go over other port options in no particular order. St. Martin, which is an island half controlled by the French and half controlled by the Dutch. This island was hit pretty hard by the 2017 hurricanes and is still recovering. St. Kitts, which is part of the island nation of St. Kitts and Nevis. When my wife and I went here, we went ziplining. St. Lucia is most well known for the twin peaks of the Pitons, which you see in the picture. Though it is its own island nation, you will see influences from British and French as they have gone back and forth with control years and years ago. The Barbados, which is a British Commonwealth, is known for its beautiful beaches. George Washington also visited the Barbados in 1751. St. Thomas, which is part of the United States Virgin Islands. We would only visit St. Thomas if we take the Norwegian Cruise Line's ship. And lastly, Antigua, which is part of Antigua and Barbuda. We would only visit this island if we take the Royal Caribbean cruise. So here's what I'd like families to consider. Given the timeline of about 18 months until we would go on this trip, would you support a trip that costs this much, roughly $1,300 to $2,000? Because of the unknown of airfare costs, I would not be able to give you the price when signing up. I would be able to provide you with a range, and you must be able to commit to the price range when signing up. Once you submitted down payments and airfares locked in, I would then be able to narrow the price range down. I have kept an eye on tickets for March 2019 to get a general idea of where we might stand with airfare. Prices have been down to $150 round trip, but I've also seen them as high as $900 or $1,000. I would guess an estimate of $400 to $600 for plane tickets would be a fair estimate, but I cannot 100% guarantee this. So where do we go from here? Parents, please visit one of the links from the handout and provide me with some feedback by doing a short questionnaire. I do ask that you do this whether you support the trip or not, as it helps me get accurate feedback. I'll look at the information parents provide, then come up with a plan of attack from there. If I find that the information is positive, I will likely plan a band trip meeting in the near future. If we do decide to move forward with a Puerto Rico trip, keep in mind that payments would be due this year in order to secure cruise spots as well as airfare. As always, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me.